Inflammation is the body's protective response to injury or infection. Wherever tissues are damaged, whether by bacteria, viruses, trauma, chemicals, or heat, our immune system immediately gets activated. The blood vessels change, immune cells move to the injured area, harmful organisms are destroyed, and finally the healing process begins. This entire sequence happens automatically. There are 5 cardinal signs of inflammation. These are redness, called rubor; heat, called calor; swelling, called tumor; pain, called dolor; and finally, loss of function, where the affected part doesn't work normally until it heals. Let's see what happens during acute inflammation. The very first cells to react are mast cells. They release a chemical called histamine, which immediately causes the nearby blood vessels to widen. This process is known as vasodilation. As the blood vessels widen, more blood reaches the injured area, making it look red and feel warm. Next, tiny gaps open between the endothelial cells lining the blood vessels. Because these gaps, fluid leaks out into the surrounding tissues. This fluid accumulation causes edema, which we recognize as swelling. Finally, neutrophils, the body's first responder cells, leave the blood vessels and move toward bacteria to destroy them. Remember this. The first cell seen in acute inflammation is the neutrophil. After about 48 hours, macrophages become the dominant cell stars. Now let's understand a question that's frequently asked in NEET MDS. What's the difference between transudate and exudate? Think of transudate as a simple watery fluid. It contains very little protein, has a low specific gravity, and is not caused by inflammation. A common example is congestive heart failure, where increased pressure pushes fluid out of blood vessels. Exudate is completely different. It forms during inflammation. It contains lots of proteins, fibrin, and inflammatory cells like neutrophils. Because it's rich in proteins, it can clot easily. Here's an easy memory trick. Exudate has extra protein. Inflammation doesn't happen by itself. It's controlled by small chemical messengers called chemical mediators. Let's look at the most important ones. First is histamine. It's released mainly from mast cells, basophils, and platelets. Its main job is to widen blood vessels and increase vascular permeability. Next comes bradykinin. If you've ever wondered what causes pain during inflammation, bradykinin is one of the major reasons. It also increases blood vessel permeability and causes smooth muscle contraction. Then we have prostaglandins. They're produced from arachidonic acid through the COX pathway. They cause pain, fever, and vasodilation. This is exactly why drugs like NSAIDs work. They block prostaglandin production. Another important mediator is leukotriene. They cause bronchoconstriction and also increase vascular permeability, making them especially important in asthma. Fortunately, our body also has chemicals that help stop inflammation. These are called lipoxins. They reduce inflammation and help bring the healing process to an end. Finally, there are 2 powerful cytokines, interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis factor, or TNF. These are mainly released by activated macrophages. They produce fever, stimulate acute phase protein production by the liver, and activate more white blood cells. Now that the leukocytes have reached the infection, it's time to destroy the invading bacteria. This process is called phagocytosis, which literally means cell eating. It happens in 3 simple steps. The first step is recognition. Before bacteria are eaten, they're usually coated with molecules like IgG antibodies and complement C3b. This coating is called opsonization. Think of it as placing a bright "Eat Me" sticker on the bacteria, making them much easier for macrophages and neutrophils to recognize. The second step is engulfment. The macrophage surrounds the bacteria with its cell membrane and traps it inside a small sac called a phagosome. Next, the phagosome fuses with the lysosome to form a phagolysosome. Finally comes the third step, killing and digestion. Powerful enzymes like lysozyme, myeloperoxidase, and reactive oxygen species, or ROS, destroy and digest the bacteria. By the end of this process, the bacteria are completely eliminated. So remember the sequence? Recognition gives, engulfment gives, killing. How do WBC actually reach the site of infection? This happens through a carefully organized process called leukocyte migration. Let's break it down into 5 simple steps. The first step is margination. Normally, white blood cells flow in the center of the blood vessel. During inflammation, slower blood flow pushes them toward the vessel wall. Next comes rolling. Here, the white blood cells make weak temporary contacts with the endothelial cells using molecules called selectins. This causes them to roll along the vessel wall instead of flowing freely. The third step is adhesion. Now the attachment becomes much stronger. Proteins called integrins act like hooks, allowing the leukocytes to stick firmly to the endothelium. The fourth step is diapedesis, also known as transmigration. The leukocytes squeeze through the tiny gaps between endothelial cells and leave the blood vessel. Finally comes chemotaxis. Once outside the vessel, the leukocytes follow chemical signals released by bacteria and damaged tissues until they reach the exact site of infection. Here's an easy memory trick. MRADC, margination, rolling, adhesion, diapedesis, chemotaxis. And don't forget this favorite MCQ. Movement of leukocytes through endothelial junctions is called diapedesis. What happens if the infection doesn't go away? That's when chronic inflammation begins. Unlike acute inflammation, which lasts for hours or a few days, chronic inflammation can continue for weeks, months, or even years. There's also a change in the types of immune cells involved. Instead of neutrophils, the main cells are now macrophages, along with lymphocytes and plasma cells. Macrophages continue trying to destroy the harmful agents, but they also release chemicals that damage surrounding tissues. At the same time, the body starts repairing itself by producing collagen fibers. Over time, this excessive collagen forms fibrosis, or scar tissue. So chronic inflammation is a combination of ongoing tissue destruction and continuous healing. The most important cell to remember here is the macrophage. Sometimes the body faces microorganisms that are extremely difficult to destroy. Instead of eliminating them completely, it tries to wall them off. This special type of chronic inflammation is called granulomatous inflammation. A granuloma is like a protective barrier built around a persistent infection. At the center, you'll often find caseous necrosis, a soft, cheese-like area commonly seen in tuberculosis. Surrounding this center are epithelioid macrophages, which are activated macrophages 2ACM. Some of these macrophages fuse together to form Langerhans giant cells. A classic feature of these giant cells is their nuclei arranged in a horseshoe pattern. Outside them are lymphocytes, and finally, a layer of fibrous tissue surrounds the granuloma. Granulomatous inflammation is commonly seen in diseases like tuberculosis, leprosy, sarcoidosis, syphilis, and actinomycosis. Let's apply everything we've learned to one of the most important infectious diseases, tuberculosis or TB. TB is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis and most commonly affects the lungs. The infection usually begins in the upper part of the lower lobe or the lower part of the upper lobe of the lung, forming a small lesion called the Ghon focus. From there, the bacteria travel through the lymphatic vessels to the nearby hilar lymph nodes. Together, the Ghon focus and the involved hilar lymph nodes form the Ghon complex, which is a hallmark of primary tuberculosis. Microscopically, tuberculosis shows a classic caseating granuloma. In the center is caseous necrosis, surrounded by epithelioid cells, Langerhans giant cells, and a rim of lymphocytes. Another interesting feature of TB is the cold abscess. Unlike a typical abscess, it shows swelling but very little redness or warmth because the inflammatory response is different. Let's quickly revise. Ghon focus is the primary lung lesion. Ghon complex is the lung lesion plus hilar lymph node involvement. The hallmark of tuberculosis is the caseating granuloma. And the characteristic giant cell seen in TB is the Langerhans giant cell.